Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It is about 12:45 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time here on the West Coast, here in Newman, California, and welcome to this live edition for May 30th, 2000. Oh, not May 30th, but May 29th, 2019, of Topics on My Mind. Now, unlike my other topics on my mind, I'm not going to go by anything numbered off. I'm actually just going to go on the spur of the moment, just kind of like shoot. If you will, let me adjust my mic. Let me adjust my headset there. Everything good? Make sure everything is good. Make sure you can hear me. All right. But yeah, I'm just going to go by whatever comes to mind. Hold on for a sec. There's a bit of an itch there. Again, let me check. Everything good. All right. Everything is good? Everything good. All right. But yeah, I just thought I'd take this opportunity with this edition to kind of just talk about whatever comes to my mind. And first of all, I do apologize if the phone rings and I have to leave abruptly. Usually about this time or a little afterwards, my mom likes to call in, check up on things, make sure everything is good. So I do apologize when that probably happens in the next, 15 and 20 minutes. But I wanted to come on here, of course, and do this live edition. Like I said, just kind of talk about whatever comes to my mind. Now, let's start off. Let's start off with what I'm trying to say is let's start off with the one thing I've been talking about lately over the past couple of days, and that is my web recommendations. Easy for me to say. My web recommendations of Mr. Internet Man. It's Mr. Internet Man. You can Google him. He's at DeviantArt. In his latest story, Walk on the Wild Side. Now, as I tried to say yesterday, in the allotted time that I had, or the time that I did have before work, I kind of gave a little bit of a review recap of what this was about. Now, since I have a bit of free time, like I said, I do apologize when the phone rings and everything, and I have to get up and leave to answer that. But let's talk about the story for a moment. Now, in case you guys, okay, in case you guys don't know who Mr. Internet Man is at DeviantArt, he also goes by another name. I can't think of it right now, but his other DeviantArt page is more based on based on drawings, based on already established characters like from Marvel superheroes, DC superheroes, you name it. Here, on his Mr. Internet Man DeviantArt page, he dedicates more to his own original works, mostly his own original webcomics. More now, not saying that his other page doesn't do that either, but his Mr. Internet Man page is dedicated more to the mature side of things when it comes to his comics, if you will, comes to his creations and OCs. Um, Basically, I was just checking something there. But basically, Mr. Internet Man, several years ago, introduced us to what honestly, I consider his mascot, his icon that kind of helped put him on the map a little bit. And that is a character named Demonica. Demonica is actually a mischievous uh, demon elf that actually has a good heart and a good soul, but can get in all kinds of mischievous trouble. Now, you might say, you know, well, is that all she is? Well, here's where I think, well, not think, but here's where Mr. Internet Man takes his love for superheroes, Marvel and DC and such, and takes inspiration from it. Because you see, Demonica is not just some mischievous demon elf that appears out of nowhere. No, she's actually the alter ego of a college student named Veronica. A college, I guess you could look at her as sort of a comic book, nerdish, kind of a nerdish comic book, bookworm, kind of very friendly, very popular student that attends a university, attends a college, and also has a regular job. Now, long story short, and I've mentioned this in several videos here on my channel where I've talked about this, uh, Veronica ends up becoming Demonica because one day in the very first story, she comes into possession of a box that's set at her doorstep or something like that. And she opens it up and sees that it contains lipstick called Nightshade. So, just out of curiosity, she tries it on, and lo and behold, she ends up becoming Demonica. She becomes the mischievous demon elf. Now, of course, this kind of surprises her, and she reads the instructions a little bit, or the note that's left inside, and almost instantly, after reading that, she kind of gets a knowledge. She kind of like starts gaining the knowledge almost instantly of who this Demonica is, what her powers are capable of, what she's able to do. And in her first story, she tries the shape-shifting power and turns herself into another alter ego from Demonica to the sultry Monica. So yeah, that's basically how the story. That's basically how it began with Mr. Internet Man's character, and to say that this character, like I said earlier, kind of put him on the map is an understatement because as time has gone on, a lot of people, including recently one fellow DeviantArt artist called Kai-Coronis, um, put up a picture of their original OC, who is a kind of a slime goo girl creature, if you will, called Kai, I think, actually called Kai, interacting with Demonica. Where that goes from there, I don't know. It's only one picture, and even Mr. Internet Man, among others, wants to see more. Maybe he might do his own pictures on it down the line. But Mr. Internet Man has crossed his character over with other artists. He's crossed it over with with one artist's character called Lilith, and another artist's DeviantArt user, I should say, characters as well. And the way he does this is he takes his time and he distributes a variety of pictures. Sometimes, depending on how he feels in the situation, it could go from a minimum of 5-6 pages to almost 20 pages to 15 pages to what he just recently did was his Walk on the Wild Side story, 37 pages. Like I said, it all depends on what he's in the mood to do. Now, with that being said, like I was saying, with that being said, Mr. Internet Man, and what I'm trying to say is one of the more. Okay, let me get some coffee here again. Sorry about that. But one of the more interesting things about Mr. Internet Man's character is what he's done recently, the interactions he's had recently. You see, one of the people he's been interacting the most with is another fellow DeviantArter, like I said, I think I mentioned him, called Minor Dash Alterations. Now, Minor Dash Alterations has done a variety of stories, a variety of them. Some of them mostly have a similar theme. Slime girls, goo girls, shapeshifters, you name it. And recently, over the past, I would say half year now, almost a year, within almost the past year, I should say, minor dash alterations has actually minor dash alterations. What I'm trying to say actually started of a series of stories. Actually started a series of stories, or story series, I should say, titled after Mr. Internet Man's character, Demonica. Yeah. Demonica, basically, thanks to minor dash alterations, has her own story series. Now, the way this works out is, or the way this goes, basically, what I'm trying to say, and like I said earlier, I'm doing this on the fly, off the cuff, if you will. But the way this goes is minor dash alterations uses this story to introduce their own OC character called Ruby Walker, or Agent Ruby Walker. Now, Ruby Walker, the way she meets Demonica is quite interesting. She's unsure about her at first. She doesn't know, because she's going by with some reports of strange activity, I think. So she's not sure to she's not sure what to make of it until she finally finds the source and the person behind it, and which ends up being Demonica. And basically, long story short, she's apprehensive at first, like she's not sure about Demonica, she's not sure if she could trust her, stuff like that. But it isn't until Demonica proves her worth, if you will, towards Ruby, basically proves that she can be trusted, she means no ill harm, that Ruby starts to reciprocate, basically return that trust towards Demonica, and they end up becoming friends and partners, if you will, or unintentional partners. And also, long story short, that evolves into them becoming very intimate with each other. In other words, they become lovers. So, what this has to do with what Walk in the Wild side is about is is minor dash alterations added a few character development and story developments, evolutions, if you will, into the story. One thing minor dash alterations added from a character development standpoint for Demonica, for Demonica, is she is discovering new abilities about her powers she never thought she had. Although she might have been suspicious of, but she wasn't too sure of. Hold on for a sec. But like I say, she's not too sure of because she's always been capable of doing a lot of things. As I've mentioned before when I've talked about it, she has the ability to basically change herself into anything she wants, not just any person, but into anything that she wants. She can turn herself into she can turn herself into any inanimate object, any kind of plant, any kind of vehicle, any kind of animal, mythical or real, or as shown as a favorite pastime of minor dash alterations, and obviously it's becoming a favorite pastime of Ruby Walker's minor dash alterations character. She can also turn into a puddle of goo. She can turn into a puddle of goop. She can melt down. She could turn into a formless lake of, slimy leg tags. whatever, just into basically she can melt herself down into a puddle of black latex. Now, the reason I bring it up is because in the story, Minor Dash Alterations gives Demonica the character development and evolution of realizing that ever since she's become intimate and close with Ruby, these new powers have been unlocked. And what Mr. Internet Man does at first, and then Minor Dash Alterations incorporates into the story later on, is she discovers she has the ability to absorb another. And the way she does this, um, in one web comic and chapter, she basically envelops Ruby Walker into her body. In other words, she kind of just starts wrapping herself around, kind of coating Ruby or slipping, or basically coating herself onto Ruby like a bodysuit, like a latex bodysuit, to the point that Ruby ends up being put to sleep, kind of like a Sleeping Beauty deal. Well, Demonica takes control. But that's not just it. You see, as Mr. Internet Man has pointed out and Minor Dash Alterations has followed up on, not only does Ruby get put to sleep, but Ruby as a human being ceases to be because her body mass, her body ends up being converted into additional mass to be added and spread throughout Demonica's body, so she'll be able to be, or so she'll be capable of being able to do other things, be able to do a lot more than just be limited with just being herself and doing it and all that. So by encasing, absorbing, and then converting Ruby's body into additional mass that gets spread throughout her body, she's able to do a lot more. She's able to do a lot more with her powers. And she does this by basically melting down into a puddle, and just slithering across town, doing this and that, shaping herself into different things, and this ends up becoming almost utterly mindless in a sense. She basically is letting herself go. This is not Walking the Wild Side, though. Let me kind of correct you on that. This is not Walking the Wild Side. This is from one of the Demonica story chapters. But anyway, she lets herself go to the point that when she shapes herself into a big car, a flying car, she literally explodes. Not in a fiery ball, but just like a bubble bursting in air. Pop! Pop, if you will, like a watery bubble bursting in air. And she just rains down upon the city to where all these little droplets of her take on a life of their own. And it isn't until she finds a group of girls in the college persuasion that she's able to kind of get herself back together, because she's able to absorb them as she absorbed another woman, a guy's fiance, who basically, according to the story, became understanding of what's going on, didn't have to worry about his fiance not being okay, because he, through the power of Demonica, was able to find out that, yeah, she's okay. In fact, she might be better than ever. Um, well, I wouldn't say it's the one to watch, Wild Hops. It's more along the lines of one to read and look at. But anyway, his girlfriend ends up being better than ever. But long story short, Demonica is able to reconstitute herself to the point that she's able to, like I said, able to basically kind of use her powers to kind of fix things, if you will. Because she even tries to communicate with Ruby, and even though she can sense Ruby inside of her, Ruby is in so much what's known as bliss, that she doesn't want to be disturbed. She has an idea of what's going on, but doesn't want to be disturbed because she's in such a good mood. Be right back, guys. Sorry about that, guys. Just had to check something real quickly. Let me adjust my mic there. Make sure everything is good. Okay. Sure. All right. You guys can hear me? Good. But like I said, anyway, but anyway, Demonica is able to, like I say, reconstitute herself, kind of get back on track and fix everything. And what happens later on in minor dash alterations stories, and you can find both minor dash alterations and Mr. Internet Man at DeviantArt. But what minor dash alterations does is they continue what's going on. They continue what's going on in a later in a follow up chapter. But what they also do, minor dash alterations, that is they give character development and evolution for Ruby, because, well, Ruby is still blissfully inside and a part, if you will, of Demonica. Demonica ends up using her powers and abilities to kind of scope things out, help Ruby out on her case, shapeshift into Ruby, make multiple copies of Ruby herself, which are basically Demonica herself, and like I said, in the disguise of Ruby, turn herself into Monica for another part of the case, and then turn herself into a Catwoman like character by donning the Catwoman costume. And it's during the time when she disguises herself as Catwoman that minor dash alterations brings in this character development and evolution for Ruby, and she starts learning about the powers and how to utilize them, to the point that Ruby is able to kind of reconstitute her face on various parts of Demonica / Catwoman Demonica's body. She's able to reconstitute it, even to the point that she's able to extend her face out of one of the bodies, kind of like in a neck-wise kind of deal. You kind of seen those kind of things before, to come face to face with Demonica in a Catwoman form. So yeah, Ruby is starting to master the powers to the point that not only is she able to reform her face, but she's able to extend her face from whatever part of the body is in a slimy, like, kind of in a oily, like, slimy form, as it's described in the story, to come face to face with Demonica. And it's here that we discover that Ruby is become fascinated with the liquidness, the shape shifting, the melting, mostly the gooey, melting slimeness, if you will. She's become fascinated with it. She's become fascinated with it because, as we find out in a later chapter, it feels like euphoria. It feels like the most relaxing sensation you can get. Like all your cares just disappear and nothing else matters. There's even a short story where they talk about this, what minor dash alterations did, called A Matter of Style, where they mention this, and part of the inner monologue that Minor gives Ruby is Ruby's inner monologue is, she, during her time doing that with Demonica, she couldn't think, and being shapeless and all that, that she couldn't think of a time where she existed as anything else. Like, she would rather prefer being in a form where she could turn into a liquid, relax, and not worry about a care in the world, and such. So anyway, long story short, because I know this is going long, but again, I'm going off the cuff here, no numerous numbers or anything. Long story short, this is where Mr. Internet Man's newest webcomic story, Walk on the Wild Side, comes in. Because, like I mentioned earlier, Demonica realizes she has these new abilities that are being unlocked from within her, that she's kind of been, I'm guessing she's kind of been suspectful of, but wasn't sure of. She's starting to see these new powers and abilities come to fruition, that she wants to share it with Ruby. So the story is basically, Ruby has planned a 2-week vacation, 2 weeks to spend with Demonica, to learn more about her, even sharing her abilities. And that's what Demonica does. Demonica shares in her abilities by basically, without absorbing Ruby or going without absorbing Ruby or going into Ruby via Ruby's mouth, we would assume, or touching her. She just stands there and starts sharing her abilities by transforming both her and Ruby into slime girls. Purple slime girl for Demonica, red slime girl for Ruby. And Ruby is just fascinated with what's going on. In fact, she likes what's happening and can't think of any how it can get any better. But Demonica continues the process of them changing into the basically blank, faceless, blank slated, faceless slime girls. And she just, she just keeps egging and keeps encouraging and feeding to Ruby's new love and obsession with this gooey, slimy meltiness and or whatever, to the point that she thinks, "Oh, you think this feels good? You like this and all that?" It's just the one thing about being in this form is you just allow yourself to go with the flow. And one of the the first day of pages that Mr. Internet Man uploaded during the Memorial Day weekend ended with them being turned into slime-like pillars. In fact, one of the last lines that Mr. Internet Man gives Ruby to say is she feels like now she knows what it feels like to be a bowl of jello. So next page basically continues this because one of the last pages, okay, so basically the first day of pages, the last two things that occur is not only does Ruby say that line and say the other line, it feels like all her cares are melting away. Demonica then adds to that, speaking of melting, and they end up melting down into what looks like, as some person put it, to certain parts of the female anatomy. No offense when I say that. So anyway, the next day we have another something like 20 pages, 18 pages worth of stuff being uploaded. And they end up, and again, Demonica is basically encouraging Ruby and all that, to the point that, hey, she's basically saying, hey, you think lying on the floor is great? Just wait till we really get together. And they basically rise up a little bit and start twirling around each other. Like they start connecting, and all of a sudden you have this like big old a spear, almost like, and they just keep doing this, and it's just like a big old spiral like thing where you see purple on top of red and red on top of purple and all that. And they hold on for a second. There's the phone call. I'll be right back. So I said, be right back. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I told you that was going to happen. And it's it's good that she checks in and all that. So, but like I said, I knew that was going to happen. Anyway, though, what was I saying? Oh yeah. So basically, in the second day of pages that he uploaded, they start twirling around each other and become like this big spiral like entity, to the point that when they get to a certain moment, they splash down, kind of sploosh down, as Mr. Internet Man puts it in the webcomic, into what looks like a an ocean, a lake of red and purple slime, basically mixed together. And this is where what a lot of people basically have said by commenting on it, the fusion starts to take place, because instead of talking, individually, like I said, instead of talking, individually, like they were previously, they start talking in unison. In other words, they start talking simultaneously, and they start both saying, like, when they say certain things, they start and they use the word I, or the letter I, like I like this, I like that kind of deal. Instead of doing it individually, like it's Ruby saying it and then Demonica saying something later on with it, they're both saying, I enjoy this. I can't believe this is happening. This is, I want more. And they're saying it simultaneously. And the way it's done is the word bubbles are put on top of each other. Because you had like a red word bubble that represented Ruby and a purple one that represented Demonica. So now they're kind of like on top of each other, kind of coinciding with each other, to the point that they just keep, going. They keep melding together. They go from being like this leg to, rounding out to twirling around again, and to the point that they shape themselves into this red and purple ball. All that just, is getting to the apex moment, if you know what I mean. And as they get to that apex moment, all of a sudden you see this pink light shoot out from the ball, and all of a sudden there's this big explosion. I guess you could say a climax, if you will. And the end result that we see happens the next day, and literally the next day, because on Sunday, that's when Mr. Internet Man put up the final batch of, you know pages to the web comic, where the end result, like a lot of people pretty much predicted, and I kind of saw coming, was a fusion. It was a fusion, but it was a fusion of what I looked at as being on a blank slate kind of deal. Because long story short, basically the combined fused form acknowledges itself as just one entity, it's self, and that's it. Acknowledges it hasn't rested that well in a long time, that it needs to pull itself together, get its bearings together. Basically acknowledges that, you know, all, its memories all feel all jumbled up, like it feels like it's been living two lives, but that can't be right. So stuff like that. Hold on for a sec, guys. Man, you can't. Over here. Sorry about that, guys. Um, had to feed my dog there. She wanted, since I'm home, we give her. If any of us are home, like myself and my mom, we give her meat. Not every day, but just whenever. But yeah, but yeah, I had to give her meat there. So anyway, long story short. Long story short, though, like I said, the fused being that they become doesn't have any like real recollection of what it could be. It acknowledges that it's rested well, that hasn't rested that well in a while. But like I was saying earlier, like I was saying before I went and fed my dog, it kind of looks at it kind of says that its memories are kind of fuzzy, it's kind of jumbled up, and it feels like it's been living two lives, but says that can't be right. And that eventually in time, everything will come back to her, and that it feels like she's not missing anything important, and that all that really matters to her is these powers, is the body she now has, the alluring body, sexy alluring body, I guess you can call it, and the powers that have been gifted. And this all culminates with this new fused combined being, just talking about how great these powers are, how much immense pleasure the powers are going to gives them, how it's able to use its mandible body, landible body, liquidy goo body to, become its own, to make into its own person, that she can turn into her own personal playground for her own amusement. How every movement is like another, another pleasurable moment, and then the story just ends with the combined form just splooshing down onto a bed and then spreading out and turning the bed into what looks like a little miniature tub or pool, but instead of being filled with like clear water and everything, it's full of black ooze. In other words, like oily ooze. And the story just ends with the combined form acknowledging that they'll just stay like that for a while, be a giant puddle of joy, and that maybe they'll just stay that way for a while. Now, I know that sounded kind of weird to a lot of people, and I do apologize, but that's just how the story went. And again, you could check out the stories over at DeviantArt and Mr. Internet Man's DeviantArt page. But yeah, it is a fun story. It is no doubt it's a fun story. Don't get me wrong about that. It is a fun story. It is a fun story. Don't get me wrong. But I think what but I think the one thing that some people have been kind of critical about it, the one thing some people have been kind of critical about it is the fact that the story seems to have ended abruptly. Now, I can understand why they feel that way. It's like you build up this story, and all of a sudden you just end it abruptly. Like, okay, where's the rest? Like, where's the rest? And here's the thing: Mr. Internet Man is not the first to be kind of accused of that. Um, there's a okay, there's a review that a lot of people do of My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic, and fan, one person of the fandom, whether the true fan or the not, depending, did a review on the season 7 episode. Um, it did kind of a review. It's a play on mystery science theater, but basically they did a review, a review, whatever, on the season 7 episode, The Perfect Pair, which has been acknowledged as probably one of the best episodes of the series. Anyway, long story short, the way they end uh, the review, the story, is they show a clip from, I think it's Avatar: The Last Airbender cartoon. Yeah, I think that's where it's from. They show a clip from the Avatar: Last Airbender cartoon where one of the characters is like, "Wait a minute, that's it? That can't be it. There's got to be more." That's how a lot of fans felt. A lot of fans and followers of Mr. Internet Man's works kind of felt like, "Wait a minute, that's it? That's how you're going to end it? You're not going to do any more?" They kind of felt a little disappointed. And like I said, you can't really blame them for feeling that way, because it's like, well, wait a minute. So you're just going to end the story abruptly with them just lying on a bed as sort of like a little lake, little miniature pool? That's all you're going to do? And I think one person commented in the comment section that, look, it's 37 pages. I think that's enough. I think that's enough for us to enjoy. And I think the other reason, in my opinion, this is my opinion, guys. I think the other reason um, that Mr. Internet Man ended the story that way, the reason he ended the story that way was, again, it's 37 pages, and he wants to and he wants to basically continue on with other work. Like, one thing that he does, and I think I've mentioned this before, but one thing he does is he ends up also doing some exclusive artwork for people like Minor Dash Alterations. He also wants to focus on his other DeviantArt page, where he does some non erotic stuff, basically, on non mature stuff. He wants to focus more on that. But again, he also, like I said, sometimes has to utilize his time to focus on drawing maybe some pictures to collab with, or to go along with Minor Dash Alteration stories or other people's stories. And sometimes he also just wants to take a mental break and enjoy life as it is. Now, I'm not going to say that the story ending the way it did wasn't abrupt. It was. But I think the reason he also did it is it leaves it up to your imagination, to how to basically, it's a thing of, okay, I know I ended it kind of abruptly, instead of like, because he ended about 37 pages without, and instead of an even 40 page or whatever, 40 pages. But anyway, I think the reason he did that is because it leaves it up to your imagination. He leaves it up to you to kind of ask, okay, what happens next? And maybe you will be the one that be like, okay, um, this happens next. I'm going to add to the story, and this is what happens next. So, yeah, I think he did that for a reason. And that reason was to leave it up to your imagination, how you would interpret it. But it's not the first time he's ever done that. In fact, a lot of his stories, in a sense, feel like they end in a certain way. You know, they end in a certain way. There have been various times, and I have to go back to look at it, but there have been various times, folks, where he has ended a story, a webcomic story, in a way that, you know, like I said, he ends the story sometimes he abruptly ends them, like I said, in a way that, well, it feels like he abruptly ends them, but he does it because, like I said, he wants to leave it to our imagination. That's what a lot of people do. Either we like what they do or they don't. You take a look at Game of Thrones, and a lot of people don't like how that ended, and a lot of people are petitioning that it get remade and be done better, be done the right way. But maybe that was done for a reason. That reason being, hey, if you think you can do better, we'll leave it up to you. Use your own imagination. You got the funds to do your own little India go project or whatever to make what you feel season 8 should have been. Go ahead and do it. And I think honestly, when you look at it, that's how you have to view Mr. Internet Man's uh to view Mr. Internet Man's stories. The fact that basically it is, the way he ends them is to interpret them with your own story. To kind of interpret it, with your own stories and or your own theories and all that. And that's what I think he did here. And like I said, it's not the first time. It's not the first time. I think Mr. Internet Man at one point had another page somewhere else on a more adult, kind of more of an adult version of DeviantArt. It wasn't for Affiniate, but it was something else. And at times he would actually take what's known as his uncut stuff, or what he couldn't put on DeviantArt, although he could, and he would add it over there. He would add it, you know, he would add it over over on that page, because he couldn't add it anywhere else. You know, he couldn't add it on DeviantArt. I mean, he could, but he'd have to put a mature setting. But the other stuff he wants to do, he couldn't, because it's like going beyond mature. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's basically when you think about it, it's probably sometimes the best thing to do, because there are times I'm tempted, even though I don't really. I mean, I could do it. Sometimes I can't do it. Sometimes I'm just not in the mood. But there are times I feel like continuing stuff like that just to give my own spin on it. But I don't, because it's not that I don't think I could do a good job. Heck, I did at one point a long time ago. I did what's known as the redemption arc, a redemption story fanfic on Rescue Rangers. And you can find it, I think, at fanfiction.net and adultfanfiction.net. But I did it, and I actually enjoyed it. I actually had fun doing it. But that's when I had more free time. There are times like today, I'm off. I want to just relax, probably do a live stream podcast like this, and just be done with it. But yeah. But yeah, it's. I look at the fact that it's not that Mr. Internet Man doesn't want to continue it. I'm sure if he had a lot more time on his hands, he would do it. Don't get me wrong. But he has other commitments, maybe to life, other jobs to work. He has, like I said, other commitments, maybe people he collabs with that he wants to focus on. And there's nothing bad about that. There's nothing really bad about that, because if that's what he wants to do, that's what he wants to do. We can't tell him yay or nay. We can't tell him either yay or nay about it, because it's not our call. It's his. I mean, there's no doubt that I think someone like Minor Dash Alterations, if they wanted to, they could extend on that, but they can extend on the ending and be like, okay, people want more to the story. You know what? I'll give it to them. I'll extend it, and they might incorporate that into their ongoing series, and they've done that before. They've done that before, so it's not the first time they would do something like that. Um, for example, one person that I follow on DeviantArt called Grape Athenia, and I do apologize if I pronounced that name wrong. doesn't always dedicate every day of her life, if you will, to her stories, like what dreams maybe what dreams may become kind of story. She doesn't always dedicate her life to doing that. She doesn't do that all the time. But when she does, she wants to. But when she does get to what I'm trying to say is when she does get to the point where she decides to you know continue the stories, she wants to make sure she has enough material to go with. In other words, she wants to give her time to think about, okay, what could I add in, and maybe she uses real life to be like, oh, that's interesting. I can incorporate something like that into the story. Oh, I can incorporate something like that, or I can incorporate this that I'm seeing across the street. You know, she wants to, I think, kind of build on ideas, but she also wants to give it a break because there are people that, like myself, would like to see more of her What Dreams May Become series. There's a lot of us that would love to commission her again for stories like the Potion Palace. In fact, I'm the one that kind of helped really contribute to that a lot. I think that's what it's called, the Potion Place, I should say, the Potion Place Gina Caroline stories, if you will. I kind of helped contribute to a lot of that. But the point is, guys, it's up to Mr. Internet Man if he wanted to continue more. Now, like I said, his stories are not. I'll put it this way: his, like I said earlier, his before I really kind of got off the rails there. It's not the first time his stories have ended abruptly or felt like they ended abruptly. Excuse me there, but because there have been many times they've ended abruptly. Now, true, some of them have had resolution. There's one story where I think let me see if I can find it here. Hold on, just got to get to his page and get to the gallery he has here on DeviantArt. Hold on. Oh, here it's called Comic Conventions. It's called Mystic Makeover Comic Conventions. And I think he did this 3 years ago. He actually did 3 years ago. 3 years ago. It doesn't feel like it. But basically, Demonica goes with two of her friends. And Veronica, that is, goes with two of her friends to a convention, and decides. Let me see if I can. And decides to. Let's see. Oh yeah, she hears a conversation between her two friends. I'm trying to think what her two friends' names are. I don't know what her friends' names are, but anyway, I think Mr. Internet Man puts it here somewhere. Let me see. No, he doesn't. But basically, her two friends, her two male friends, are kind of debating on who's the better character, if not who's the hotter comic book character, between Catwoman and Black Cat. Both kind of debating and arguing who's the ripoff, who's the legit, who's better, da 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 da. So Veronica is overhearing this because she's having lunch with them, and that's when she gets the idea to do what she's about to do. Because basically, she makes up the excuse that she wants to go visit some of the panels and she'll see him tomorrow. And when they say, okay, V, we'll see you then, she has a thought bubble that says, not unless I see you first. And this is where it comes into play. And this is what comes into play because basically, what she does is she goes into a bathroom, a women's bathroom. She puts a sign on there called "Closed for Maintenance." Obviously, she puts the sign on there. And she basically decides that since she doesn't normally do this at conventions, but she's not really competing this year at anything, she's going to make an exception. And she uses the opportunity to lock herself into the women's bathroom and turn herself into Demonica. So let's see. So yeah, she basically turns herself into Demonica, and then she splits herself in two, kind of in a gooey kind of way. Not totally, but just kind of splits herself into two, makes twins. So, long story short, because I know I'm rambling on, I know people are thinking, just get on with it, Brian. Long story short, she basically turns herself into Demonica, clones herself, creates a double of herself, and they both basically utilize Demonica's shapeshifting power to turn one of the Demonicas, into Catwoman, a legit, almost identical, almost like legit Catwoman. You couldn't tell the difference whether this was real or not. Catwoman cosplayer, and the other into a Black Cat cosplayer. And what they do is they approach two of Veronica's friends and literally seduce them into teaching them about the card game they're doing, and then basically give them a night of fun, if you know what I mean. Because when Veronica shows back up to check on them or meet up with them and ask how their night was or the rest of the day was, they got these hearts in their eyes and all that, saying it was amazing. And she's just giggling because she knows exactly what she did. you know, but yeah, basically that's an example of the fact that he doesn't always end a story abruptly. He does give it some kind of conclusion. He does give it some kind of conclusion. Um, anyway, long story short, I know I've been rambling on about that for almost an hour and a half, so I do apologize. But anyway, I would advise checking out Mr. Internet Man's DeviantArt page. It's Mr. Internet Man. It's Mr. Internet Man. It's the whole word. .deviantart.com, and also check out Minor Alterations page, which is, if I can find it, is deviantart.com/minor-alterations. And like I said, the other one is Mr. Internet Man, or it's okay. Let me redo that. Mr. Internet Man's is deviantart.com/Mr. Internet Man. That's the whole name. That's a whole word. And then minor-alterations is deviantart.com minor-alterations. So check out those two pages. um, and check out the stories themselves, and you might enjoy them. You might find them. You might enjoy yourselves, and you might have some fun with them. I mean, even Minor Dash Alteration says something back on the 13th, saying that the blanky smut, that the even their blankety blank smut writing is better than season 8, that being of Game of Thrones, and even says that that's not a thing to be proud of, though. But point is, they're saying that even what they write is much better than what Game of Thrones delivered. Okay, anywho, oh, do apologize for going for that long, but yeah, just check out their 2 pages. I think you'll enjoy them. You might get a kick out of them. And if they're not for you, they're not for you. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about, let's again, I'm going on off the cuff here, not numbers or anything. But the next thing I want to talk about, of course, is AEW, but mostly what Vince Russo is talking about. You see, in case you guys don't know, Vince Russo uh, recently came out and he talked about, or came out on his podcast, and not his podcast, well, his podcast and on his Twitter, and basically indicated that WWE and AEW are in bed together. In other words, they're working together to work the fans and make them think there's competition. Now, you could definitely tell that this got the internet blowing up, if you know what I mean. It got people talking because it's like, what? A majority of people that heard this and read this, they're like, seriously, what is this guy smoking? What is this guy thinking? There is no way these two companies are working together. Why would another billionaire want to help another billionaire? That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. Why would one billionaire want to help another? Like I said, it doesn't make any sense. Um, so here's my thoughts on this. I mean, I understand Vince Russo once worked as a booker, a writer for both WWE, WCW, and even TNA/Impact Wrestling. I understand that. I even know he has his own little promotion in Colorado. But honestly, Russo, to insinuate that AEW and WWE might be working together is crazy. I mean, why would this new company that has a legit billionaire backing them up and supplying them with the finances need help from Vince McMahon, who's another billionaire, if you will, or just got back to being a billionaire not that long ago? Why would he need his help from there? That doesn't make sense. I mean, what's your thought process, huh? What's your thought process? You think, oh, WWE and AEW are working together because AEW will allow the superstars, the men and the women that want to go over there to be free to be what they want, but they'll still get some kind of substance from WWE? No. It's like, I don't know what you're thinking. I mean, what? Because Chris Jericho still because Chris Jericho is still somewhat close with Vince McMahon. You think that's the reason? Huh? You think that's the reason? You think that's why, they're working together? Nah, that doesn't make sense. Does not make sense. Does not compute. It doesn't make sense, guys. And look, I understand that some people will agree with Russo because, it's like all of a sudden this company just comes out of nowhere and now all of a sudden a big deal. They were able to book the MGM Grand and stuff like that, and WWE's done that already. I can understand maybe There's some conspiracists out there that believe that. And, I don't blame them, for believing that. I don't. But what sense, honestly, what sense does it make, ladies and gentlemen, what sense does it make for one company to help another? Huh? What sense does it make? That's like saying the NFL helped, what was it, the AAL or whatever, the AAF or what are they, the All American Football League, the AAFL, helped them out when that's not true. It's like saying it's like saying the NBA helped the CBA. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. We don't know. It's like saying the NFL helped the USFL, or the NFL helped the World League, or the European League, whatever you want to call it. It's like saying the NFL helped the CFL. It doesn't make sense. Why would one company want to help another? It it doesn't make any sense, folks. It doesn't. It does not make sense. Now, some people have come out and said that, Russo only said that to get people to talk about his podcast. And that might be true. Some might say that Russo has a point. That Russo has been in the business, he knows how the inner workings go, and that this is just a work. Really? Then why are there debating reports, various reports, going back and forth about what Sami Zayn had to say on Raw? It was scripted to take a shot at AEW, or it wasn't. If there's various reports of, Vince or Triple H okayed what Sami said or encouraged Sami to take the shot, or they didn't and nefarious. It's like, what sense does that make if you're going to take a shot at a company you're helping? It doesn't make sense. There's no chance that these two are working together. There's no chance at all. Because if there was a chance, Vince Russo, that AEW and WWE were working together, the Revival, Sasha Banks, and a few others would already be gone. And they would have been in AEW by now in time for Double or Nothing. Instead of Awesome Kong being the surprise fourth participant, it would have been Sasha Banks. Instead of the Super Smash Brothers attacking the best friends, Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta and Helico and Jack Evans after the match, instead of being the Super Smash Brothers tag team, it would have been the Revival. The point is, there is no chance that's happening. Now, some might say, well, Brian, nobody really knew. Well, they had an idea, but nobody really knew. And I'm just adjusting my computer here for a second. And I know some people are thinking, well, Brian, nobody knew that WWE was helping ECW, that ECW and Paul Heyman was on the payroll. Nobody knew that. I mean, they might have had a clue just by the partnership and collaboration, by exchanging talent at times, but they didn't really know that. And that might be true. And that is true, I should say. But ECW was not backed by by a rival billionaire. They weren't backed up by them. So there's no evidence whatsoever. There's no way of saying that AEW is backed up by WWE, or that WWE and AEW are working together. There's no way that's happening. Because if they were working together, AEW wouldn't have gotten the MGM Grand. For Double or Nothing, they would have got a smaller venue. For Fyter Fest, they would have gotten a smaller venue. Why? Because why would WWE want to give or help and contribute the leasing of another big, world famous building and arena to the competition. They wouldn't. They say, okay, we can get you a building for double or nothing. Oh, here you go. Here, try try that college community center in Windsor, Ontario. Try that. Yeah, that'd be a great place. We'll get you that. We'll help you get that. Just saying. They wouldn't even gotten up for heck, be, heck for a better well, I wouldn't say better comparison, but for maybe a little bit better than that, they probably would have said, you know what? You know that Cow Palace in Daly City outside of San Francisco? We can get you that. They would have done that, but they didn't. But they didn't. So there's no way whatsoever, ladies and gentlemen, that WWE and AEW are working together, no matter what Russo or any of his supporters or backers say. There's no way. Because, like I said, if that was the case, Revival and Sasha would have been gone, and they would have been able to go to AEW. That's not going to happen. That's not the case. Luke Harper would have been gone from AEW, and not AEW, but from WWE, and would have been able to go over there. The point is, guys, I don't know what Russo is thinking. I don't know what his mindset is. But it's stupid to think, even for a moment, ladies and gentlemen, it's stupid to think, even for a moment, that WWE and AEW would be working together. It doesn't make sense. Because you know what? Because here's the thing. There's a lot of men and women, female and male fans out there that are happy AEW's around, that are jumping ship from WWE to AEW, that are jumping the bandwagons from WWE to AEW, from NXT to AEW. There's a lot of people doing that. Deluxe Man, even though he still watches WWE for, WWE, on occasions like Raw and SmackDown and mostly NXT and 205 Live. In NXT UK, even though he still watches them, hoping that Raw and SmackDown gets as good as NXT and NXT UK and even 205 Live, even he's starting to jump ship. He's starting to support AEW more than WWE. And let me explain this. If there's any truth, let's say it's true. Let's say there's some kind of truth behind what Russo is saying. Then those people I just mentioned, like Deluxe Man, and the other, like Deluxe Man, and maybe Chase Oliver, and Kyle Loves Wrestling, and many others that are jumping on the AEW bandwagon, they'd be jumping off. They'd be jumping off because they'd be like, what? Well, wait a minute. So AEW and WWE are working together? They're conspiring together? I don't want nothing to do with AEW because if that's the case, WWE may influence them to the point that they'll become like WWE. Bye! Whee! They jump back. Well, they jump off entirely. The point is, ladies and gentlemen, the point is, there is no chance whatsoever they're working together. It's like if Walmart and Amazon work together. One thing that everybody always asks me at my job, not everybody, but customers on occasions ask me or my fellow associates, what do you sell the Amazon.com cards? What do you sell the Amazon gift cards? I don't see them over here. And we have to tell them, we don't sell Amazon. Because Amazon's our rival. It'd be the same with Target. What do you say? Do you sell any Target cards? We don't sell Target cards. They're our rival. It's the same if somebody went to Target and asked, do you sell Walmart gift cards? No, they don't because we're the rival. We're the competition. So why would why would we want to sell gift cards to our competition, huh? The same thing with WWE and this whole notion that they're working with AEW. Why would they want to? The competition. Why would they want to work with them if AEW is going to be on TNT? The very same network that had WCW Monday Nitro. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. And I think anybody listening to this podcast, this live streaming podcast, realizes that. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't. It does not make sense. You know, I mean, why? Okay, you want to know another reasoning why it doesn't make sense? John Moxley, aka Dean Ambrose, went on to Chris Jericho's podcast, Talk is Jericho. And guess what? He, for most of the, well, not most of it, but for, I would say, 75% or 70% of the podcast, unloaded on WWE. Now, he did say he was grateful. He was happy to be there. And he basically said he was going to do what he had to do to make sure he didn't have to worry about anything. But he unloaded on a lot of what would happen in the past several months, if not the past year. And that basically, in the middle of last year, is when he decided, when my contract's up, I'm done. And I'm going to leave no matter what the solution or no matter what the future is. So, and everybody's talking about it. The Lex Man's talking about it. You know, I'm sure Solomon's going to talk about it. Good Mike with Greg Morgan's talking about it. Everybody's talking about it. The fact that this guy, who was a top tier guy, even when he left, believe that or not, top tier guy, is unloading on Chris Jericho's podcast. And oh, by the way, Chris Jericho is a top guy, still very close at times with Vince McMahon. And the reason people are talking about this is because this can potentially send waves, if you will, waves across the wrestling industry, if not the sports entertainment industry, and reach the likes of, let's say, the people at USA Network and the people at Fox. Because if the people at USA and Fox hear this, they're going to, no doubt, go to WWE and say, what the heck's going on? And they'll probably be the reason, and they'll probably end up being the ones that say, you know what? We don't want your product unless you get rid of Vince McMahon. Get him out of the picture. And that's probably what's going to happen. That's what a lot of people are hoping. Because to them, Vince McMahon's like this. Oh, that farting joke. That's great. Let's continue that farting gimmick because that makes money. That's all Vince cares about. It's like, oh, well, we can't do that. We're going to leave it like that because it makes money. You know, instead of having the No Chance in Hell theme for Vince, why don't you just give him the $1 Million Man's ha 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 theme? Makes more sense. Anyway. Anyway, like I was saying, it's basically along the lines of how do I put this? It's ridiculous to think that they're working together. Because if you have Moxley, aka Ambrose, laying it in on WWE about, look, I'm grateful of being there and I did what I had to do, lived up to my obligations, but then admitting that even during that time, a lot of the stuff he was fed and others are being fed is crap, then there's no chance these guys are working together. No chance. Because if there was a chance, Ambrose wouldn't be going over to New Japan to fight Juice Robinson for the United States Championship. There's no chance they're working together, Russo. So what? Whatever you're smoking, my friend, you need to get off it. Now, I know Russo will come out and say, look, it's not that. Now, I think Russo has come out and said, look, it's not that I'm saying they are, but it just seems too evident. Like there's too much evidence to point out otherwise. And look, Russo has a right to his opinion no matter how we feel about him. But to think that WWE and WWE and AEW are working together is ridiculous. Because, like I said, if that claim that Russo's putting out there is true, and basically saying that he's only going by what he sees to put two and two together, then, like I said, there's going to be many people that have jumped onto the AEW bandwagon that's going to jump off because they're going to want nothing to do with that, and you know it. Anyway, with that said, speaking of AEW, everybody wants to know about the whole, like I mentioned just now, in there, the whole Sami Zayn thing. Was it legit? Was it a shoot? Was it unscripted? Was it legit? Was it approved? Was it not approved? We don't know. WWE is trying to tout that the third hour Raw is going to be grittier and all that, rougher around the edges. What? Because it's going to be late at night, or going to be the later portion when that kind of stuff is allowed. Whatever. But a lot of people are debating that. And here's the thing about that. Depending on how you look at it, whether or not Sami gets in trouble or he doesn't, the reason AEW, depending on how you look at it, the reason that went off without a hitch, or that went off, and again, some people are saying that it was not planned, and some are saying that it was, because if it wasn't planned, then people are saying that Sami's match would have been canceled and stuff like that. And sorry, my finger hit the mic there. But someone's saying that Sami's match would have been canceled. Somebody else would have came out and wrestled Seth, stuff like that. However you want to look at it, do I think Sami Zayn might get in trouble? Well, it's like I said at the end of my review, and I even did an expert, and I even did a clip on this. I even uploaded a clip from the end of my review of Double or Nothing, an expert, if you will, as they call it. And I basically said that with Bret Hart and Jon Moxley showing up at Double or Nothing, and people are saying, well, and people basically indicating that, well, say bye-bye to your career, Renee. Say bye-bye to your career, Natalya. They're about to be buried 6 to 12 feet under. Bye-bye. If that's the case, they might as well punish all the wrestlers, all the superstars that tweeted about Double or Nothing and gave it a positive review or positive reaction. They might as well do that. To say Sami might get punished for something that he said, and he could justifiably come out and say, well, isn't the electric chair now, this electric chair segment you're doing, supposed to be unscripted, non-scripted, shoot, if you will? Isn't it supposed to be that? Wasn't that your promoting of it? So, he would have a valued argument there, but the point is, but the point is, getting back to what I was saying here, if Sami's going to get punished, then why don't they just punish everybody else? They won't. And you know why? They can't. Because Sammy would have a valid argument saying, didn't you promote this as non scripted? As well as the fact that they could have cut his mic off right there. They could have ended the segment just like that. So, depending on how you look at it, the reason Sammy said it the way he did and then gave the expression that he did, it's my theory, this is my theory, that I don't think it was Vince McMahon that gave him the okay to mention anything he wanted, but mostly mention AEW. Even if he gave him a script or a promo to practice and then maybe said, oh, by the way, mention AEW and give a shock look like, that. My opinion is I think it was Triple H that took the reins on Sammy that night and said, mention AEW. You got my permission. And then give him a shock look. Because when I saw Sammy give that look after he mentioned AEW, that look reminded me of a look that Triple H would give in a mocking fashion. Like, oh, I'm so shocked I said that. And the reason Sammy gave that look, and the reason I believe Triple H more so than Vince McMahon was behind possibly Sammy being allowed to do that, because that's how WWE looks at AEW right now. WWE looks at like, ooh, you're such a threat. Ooh, oh, you're saying all these things. Ooh, yeah, ooh, you're a threat. Ooh, oh, you got John Moxley. Ooh, oh, you got Shawn Spears. Ooh. To them, they're like, ooh, we're so scared. You're just a bunch of hype. That's how they look at it. They look at it as it's nothing but a bunch of hype, and unless they can prove that they're truly a threat, that they're a better product than WWE, they just look at them as another promotion that's trying to compete. Yes, they might respect the fact that, yes, AEW got the deal on TNT, but did they act that way towards TNA when they were on Spike? No. They never acknowledged TNA on Spike because they didn't look at TNA/Impact as a threat. And they knew sooner or later it would, be, a non-factor. Even when they tried to compete on Monday nights on Spike, what happened? They got obliterated. They got obliterated because WWE basically proved that as crappy as they could be at times, they were still the superior product. And people would rather watch them than Spike. Even if they had Hulk Hogan, they'd rather watch WWE. And why? Because WWE never acknowledged Spike TV. They never acknowledged TNA and /Impact. All they did was just go on about their business. And that's what happened. And the end result was Impact, TNA got obliterated. And that's how WWE right now views AEW. Yeah, they view them as competition, but they don't view them as a threat. Even when they go into TNT, they're not going to view them as a threat. You know why? Because they just look at them as another company that's just nothing but hype. And it's just a group of wrestlers trying to prove, hey, look, we can be main eventers. We can be world champions. That's how they view AEW, whether we want to admit that or we don't. I mean, look, I want AEW to succeed. I want All Elite Wrestling to succeed. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy Double or Nothing. I loved it. I love Double or Nothing, but here's the point. Here's the point, ladies and gentlemen. WWE doesn't look at AEW as a threat. They don't consider them a threat. They just consider them another promotion that's just trying to build up hype for themselves. And in the end, in their eyes, in WWE's eyes, in the end, it's going to ultimately fail. Even if they have a billionaire behind them, they're going to ultimately fail because you got to look at it from maybe, let's say, Triple H's standpoint. Triple H is someone that everybody wants to take over WWE because they feel he could do a better job than Vince. And he's proven that. But here's the thing. Even though he's proven he could do a better job than Vince, Triple H isn't called the Game or the Cerebral Assassin for nothing. It's not just an in-ring moniker. It's not just an in-ring gimmick. It also applies to him backstage. He knows how to play things smart. And he sees the fact that, yes, All Elite Wrestling's got momentum now, but to him, it will be the kind of company that will eventually fall, because what he looks at is that sooner or later the truth is going to get revealed, that in his mind, that this all elite company is nothing more than just a promotion to push to the stratosphere Cody Rhodes, so that Cody Rhodes can prove to Triple H, see, I'm world champion material. See, I'm the AEW World Heavyweight Champion. You could have made me your champion. That's all it is. That's how he looks at it. That's how, Triple H looks at this whole situation. He doesn't look at it like, oh, they're a threat. We need to pick up our A game. No, he just looks at it as a promotion in his eyes, and there are probably others that share the same sentiments. That's just nothing but hype, and that, yes, it has momentum, and it might build off that momentum and continue it for a bit or for a while, but that sooner or later, things are going to fall. Things, not things, but the holes are going to start exposing themselves, and the truth is finally going to come out that it's nothing more than a vanity project by Cody Rhodes to build himself up as something that he believes he should be, and that's a main eventer, a world champion. Now, I'm not saying Cody doesn't deserve that. Cody has proven he can be a world champion, but not in the WWE's eyes. You get what I'm saying? You get what I'm trying to get at? It's not the fact that it's not the fact that basically I look at it this way. I don't think Triple H wants All Elite Wrestling to fail, but I think he just looks at the fact that sooner or later the truth is going to come out, and that basically what's going to happen is the Khan family is going to probably release Cody and the Bucks from their positions of power, and maybe even from their contracts, because they're going to see the truth themselves. That's why WWE doesn't look at AEW as a threat. That's why when Sammy said what he did on Monday, I think that was more of Triple H giving him the approval and maybe suggesting he say that, because they don't, and giving that and adding that expression at the end, because they don't look at AEW as a threat. That's why they put on the show that they did. They still don't look at them as a threat. They could say, yeah, they had a good show, but it's no big deal. So that's what I think. Again, my opinion, but that's what I think. But again, I don't think he wants AEW to fail. I think he just probably sees the fact that the truth is going to come out about AEW in his mind, about it being nothing more than a vanity project by Cody to promote himself as something that WWE never saw him as. Anyway, with that said, let's talk about something else here. Let's talk about My Little Pony Friendship is Magic Season 9, the final season. And believe it or not, just like before, a lot of episodes have been released early across the seas in England. Well, not England, but in Italy, in the Italian language. But what's funny is that Italy's on-demand service for the channel that has gotten early access, who's gotten early access to the episodes, has an English option to watch the episodes in English. So guess what's been happening? A lot of these episodes have been ending up online in English. And to say we're going to get some good episodes, I think could be an understatement. But what I see here now, from what I've seen, they look good. I've even done videos on them. I talked about how I think the Celestia and Luna one is going to probably top Royal Problem as the better Celestia Luna episode. I think Last Crusade's going to definitely be the equivalent of the Perfect Pair from Season 7 for this season. And if you're a Spike and Rarity Sparity shipper, you're going to like this. There's a moment, because one of the video sites out there that has the episodes online in English, or someone that uploaded the episodes online in English. One of the episodes, I think, and I'll say this, it's the Princess one, it's the Luna Celestia one. you get a bit of a Sparity moment if you're a Spike and Rarity supporter, because there's a moment where a giant tortoise, I am not lying about this, that is supposed to be, I guess, part of Fluttershy Sanctuary or animal shelter, ends up getting loose because it's hungry, starts tearing up a lot of stuff, then grabs a tree along with Spike. Spike basically he gets stuck to this tree. It's like this tortoise sticks his tongue out, grabs a tree, and along the way, bam, hits Spike. Spike gets stuck to the tree, and Rarity is the first one. Is the only one to come out of the group and go and say her spiky wikey deal. She's got this, hooves on her things like spiky wikey when she says that, and she's running up and then standing on her two hind legs. And it's like, okay, there's a Sparity moment. Told you we'd get it. It took up to the 13th episode, but we're gonna get it. We might even get it. Yeah, so it took up to that point, but we got something. Oh, and Rarity's reaction towards the return of Fancy Pants and the way he acts. Let's just say if you're a Sparity supporter, you might like how she reacts to him. Let's just say she doesn't like what he has to say sometimes. But yeah, you got those things happening. And then we got Going to Seed, which comes out this Saturday on Discovery Family. It looks like it's good. Sounds like it's going to be good. Then you got Student Council, which is going to be good. So yeah, a lot's going to be sounds like it's going to be good. So a lot's going on, but yeah, to say that this needs to stop, that Hasbro needs to stop this, would be an understatement, because come on, if they keep this up, pretty much the series is going to be over before it's officially over here in the States. I mean, here's what I think a lot of people are fearing and possibly could happen. That the final episodes of the series is going to end up in 1 week. And if it's a 4-parter, and let's say it's a 3 to 4-parter, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that's it. Well, and I'm hoping that's not the case. But I don't know. To me, it's gotta they gotta fix this. They gotta fix this, because it does not help the show at all. It doesn't help the fans. I mean, yeah, some fans are happy to get early access, but if they want to review the episode, they have to wait till the episode officially comes out here in the U.S. So it doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense in my opinion. So yeah, I'm hoping that they don't do this in the second half, because if they do this in the second half, it's it's people are still going to watch. Don't get me wrong, but it's going to be like, this is not the way you're supposed to end a series. You kind of get what I'm saying, right? Anyway, yeah, season 9 has been released. Sorry, my finger hit the mic there. But yeah, season 9 has been released early, and hopefully the second half, the rest of the first half of season 9 season 9 has been released early, and hopefully that doesn't happen in the second half, because I think the best thing to do with the second half is just let it air as it airs here in the U.S. and around the countries, so that everybody is in for surprises and can react basically at the same time, and review the episodes at the same time. So that's about it there. And one last thing, because I know they're watching. I think they're still watching, and that being my friend Wild Hops. I'm going to talk about something that apparently a lot of people have been talking about. Element Games has been talking about. Element Games and a few others. And that's WWE 2K 2020, that is, which obviously is going to be scheduled for release in October of this year. We don't have many details. The only thing we do have an idea of happening is Becky Lynch is going to be the cover, is going to be on the super, is going to be the super. Becky Lynch is going to be the cover star for 2020, for WWE 2K 2020, or WWE 2K20. So that Becky Lynch is going to be the man, if you will, is going to be the cover star for the game, which I think is well deserved. She'll be the first female that I know of that gets that honor. But the question is, what are we going to get here? And a lot of people pretty much are assuming we're going to get pretty much the same as what we've gotten. But I think honestly, there's a lot more they can do. It's a lot more they can do. I look at it this way. I know they're going to incorporate the 24/7 title, and they might even give that a story mode. Here's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping, they give us custom matches, right? They give us custom matches. One thing they don't let us customize is the Royal Rumble. I want a customizable way of making my own Royal Rumble match. That's what I want. I mean, if you're going to give us 100 slots to create characters with, then give us an option to create as big a Rumble as possible. Last year, you did the Greatest Royal Rumble, and you added 50. This year, which is Super Showdown, you're doing a 50-man Battle Royal. Give us the option to do 50 or 60 stars. I think people would enjoy that. Second of all, allow us to customize the Royal Rumble so that, I don't know, it gives us a familiar feel from other promotions. Like, let's say, give us the option to have not only over the top rope, but pinfalls. Yeah. Because one thing I noticed when it comes to the Battle Royals is when you choose pinfall submissions or both, top rope goes bye-bye. The top rope option's gone. Automatically, or you turn it off, but mostly it's automatically. To me, I think you should leave the over-the-top rope option on, but also allow us to put pinfall and submission in there, especially with the Royal Rumble. That way, for some of us that don't like the idea that we could end up being pushed out no matter how many times we push the buttons on a controller, it makes the Rumble matches a lot easier. It does. So, to me, they need to add that option into the Rumble. Another thing they should probably do is they need to add in a few more WCW arenas, and as well as add in the some of the match types that WCW had. Like, for example, add in the World War III option arena, if the World War III, the WCW World War III arena, and along with it, add in the 3-tier rings, the 3 rings to go with it, and allow us to do the 60-man over-the-top rope battle royal with that. That's something I think could work. I really think so. Another thing as well is you need to add more to the repertoire of the weapons when they get used in Extreme Rules. I mean, it's great that you have candlesticks, tables, chairs, ladders, baseball bats, you name it. But give us more variety. Give us, because you used to in the past, so I would suggest if you're going to give it a T rating and say there's going to be blood, give us barbed wire. Give us thumbtacks. Add those as repertoire options for weapons to be utilized in Extreme Rules. Because I guarantee you do that, people will like it. Another match type you should bring back is the Inferno, the Ring of Fire match. Even if you don't want people to get burned, you can add in the pinfall option, but still bring that back because it looks good in my opinion. I think people will like that. Another thing, hopefully they bring in for 220, for 2020, I should say, the 2K20 game, the WWE 2K20 game. The one thing I do hope they bring in, ladies and gentlemen, is the ability to customize our own videos the way we want them, our own entrance videos. I mean, it's great they allow us to put images that we upload onto the logo, onto the website through the logo option. It's great that they do that, but allow us to also add in GIFs, allow us to add in MP4s, video files to give it more of an authentic feel. Think about that. Allow us to do that, because that way it gives it more of an authentic feel. I mean, I understand that nowadays not really much goes on with the Trons. You just see the name of the competitor and that's it. But to me, if they gave us the option to add in video formats, upload some video formats, maybe 30 seconds at most, and be able to utilize them on our video, on our game for our entrances, I think that would be great. I think that would be really great. So those are just some of the things. And I think they need to give us more customizable options as well. Give us more customizable options, customizable options, I should say, to create our characters and create our championships and arenas with. One thing they need to really fix, when it comes to a certain arena that you choose, depending whether it's outdoors or it's indoors, is some of the arenas have have that electric billboard that goes back and forth. Anytime a lot of us have put our logos or whatever on those electric billboards, they don't move. They just stay. So I think what they need to improve on and fix and give to us when it comes to create arena is the option that when we put our logo in that electric billboard, for it to start moving like it's a regular part of the arena. So I think that's what they need to do there. As well as I think they need to cut down on the reversals. I get the fact that you want that every game has to be harder with every new release and all that, but I think they need to cut down on that a little bit. Just cut down a bit on it. Make sure it's not as annoying, and make sure make sure the glitches, if not some of the glitches people complain about, are taken care of. Fixed, if you will. So, and as well as, if you're going to do commentating for this, allow the competitors to, if you're going to put commentating in this, allow the commentators to say other things. I mean, in the past, in other games, you used to be able to hear them mention the creative wrestler's name and something else. I think if you want to give it more of an authentic feel, allow the commentators to say stuff that kind of gives it that. Like, let's say, I don't know, VWU, Virtual Wrestling United. Instead of, people just doing the commentating themselves, which isn't a bad thing. Let's say they want to use the in-game commentating. Instead of having Michael Cole go like, "Welcome to WWE." Oh no, this is WWE. This is WWE. No, have it to where you have Michael Cole, Corey Graves, Renee Young, Byron Saxton, Todd Phillips, come out and say, things like, "And this is for the VDU," even if it sounds a little stale, or kind of like awkward. But have someone like Todd Phillips go like, "Ladies and gentlemen, and a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, this match is for the VDU Championship or VDU Internet Championship," or something like that. It makes sense. It would make more sense and feel more authentic, in my opinion. So hopefully those are some of the things they do and fix and add on for WWE 2K20. But that's all I'm going to say, guys, for this live, unscripted, non-numeroled topic version, unscripted, non-numeroled topic on my mind podcast and stream. Thank you all for watching. Really appreciate it. Let me know what you all think down below. But those are just things I wanted to talk about. I might, just like I did with my Double or Nothing review, I might pick out some clips and put some, I might, edit some clips, pick out certain clips and edit them as their own video to upload later on. But let me know what you all think down below. Comment if you like. I'd love to hear from you guys. And I'll talk to you all later. God bless. Take care.